Welcome to Astrology of the Unknown,
a true crime comedy podcast. No, a true crime astrology podcast. Let's do that again.
Welcome to Astrology of the Unknown,
A true crime astrology podcast.
We are your hosts, William Holloway.
And I'm Joseph Mulholland. And today I'm in Florida, so a little change of scenery. I'm also trying glasses.
Yeah, I was going to say those are some new glasses. I like them.
They're like progressive bifocals that are plain glass on top because I don't need glasses for distance, but I can't see anything up close anymore. I'm getting so old. I can't see shit. I also hate these glasses because I still can't see anything.
Oh.
People keep telling me, oh, just keep wearing them, you'll get used to them. It's like I'm moving my head around trying to find the right spot to look through for up close, and I just can't seem to find it. So I think I just need to get regular old just readers that are single vision. Just start fucking wearing them on my head, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe get a little thing around your neck. What do they call those?
Oh, yeah. Little chain.
Yeah, a little chain for your glasses.
Oh my God. It'll become my whole personality.
Decorate the chain.
I'll have chains for every occasion, every outing, every occasion. Yeah. I'll have a special pair for when I go to Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be nice. It'll be nice. I need another thing.
Yeah. More accessories
to define me. Yeah, I need accessories. But anyway, how are you doing? You've given up on your long hair journey, I see.
I gave up on my long hair journey because I didn't really know where I was going, and eventually I had to give up, and I'm happy I did. I think this is my natural state.
Yeah.
That's just my natural state now. So
sometimes you'll without the journey.
It's absolutely true. How has sunny Florida been for you?
It's okay. I'm here for some family stuff. Right. So I haven't had too much time to myself, but I did get to go to the beach a couple days ago, which is nice. Tried to get a base tan, but I don't really know that I did. Yeah.
Well, you're tanner than me.
A little darker than normal, I guess. I don't know.
I don't really tan. I just splotch.
Okay.
Yeah, just splotch.
Yeah. I like a splotch. It's like the Chris Chestemy song with the girl who had little marks all over her, little splotches all over her body.
Oh, yeah. They're all over her body.
Yeah. Who quite explained it. Anyway.
Yeah.
Should we jump into today's topic or today's episode? So we decided to do this because even though it's a really old case, there have been some pretty new development in the case. Not anything that would solve the why of this case, which is why we're still considering it an unsolved or an unknown kind of family death, because I don't know. It's just a weird story. You actually brought it up to me. But anyway, we're going to be doing the case of the Martin family mystery, but I'm going to start at the beginning. So let's see here. Okay. So it was late Sunday morning, December 7th, 1958, and Kenneth and Barbara Martin, 54 and 48 respectively, left their home in Northeast Portland, Oregon, with daughters Barbie, 14, Virginia, 13, and Susan, 11. in their 1954 cream and red colored Ford Country Squire station wagon. The family drove east into Columbia River Gorge, where they planned to gather greenery to make Christmas wreaths and decorations. It was December, it was Christmas time. While details of their exact destinations throughout the day aren't totally known, the family did stop at Cascadia Locks, which is a gas station around 40 miles from the Martins' home around 4 p.m. to purchase gas. According to Dean Baxter, the gas station owner, the family's car continued to head east after leaving the gas station. So he, watched them pull out of the gas station after they got gas. The family was seen again shortly after this at Paradise Snack Bar Restaurant in Hood River, approximately 20 miles east of Cascade Locks, where a waitress named Clara York stated that she served the family. Other reports from passing motorists indicate that the family was also seen at an undisclosed location at the north bank of the Columbia River in Washington State at dusk. Now, on December 9th, Kenneth didn't show up to his job at Eccles Electric Home Service Company, and Barbie, the eldest daughter, was absent from her morning classes at Grant High School. Susan and Virginia were also reported absent by their teachers at Rose City School. Later that day, Kenneth's boss, Taylor Eccles, reported the family missing, and police went to their residence around 11 p.m. to do a wellness check. The house was left undisturbed with no sign of foul play. There were no signs of any kind of trip or anticipated prolonged absence. For example, there was a load of laundry in the washing machine, dishes from the previous day were drying in the dish rack, and there was a large amount of money in the Martins' bank accounts. So there was no sign that they were, making some escape or anything like that. The search was conducted by I'm going to say this wrong. So Multnomah, I think it's Multnomah. Does that sound familiar?
No.
Multnomah, Multnomah. I'm going to say Multnomah. So anyway, a search was conducted by the Multnomah County and Hood River County Police Departments with no substantial leads. A stolen 1951 Chevy and a .38 Colt Commander handgun covered in dried blood were found during the search. While the Chevy was initially dismissed, the handgun was turned over to law enforcement, though it was never processed for evidence. Now, this is where it gets weird. The gun serial number was traced to a Meyer and Frank department store. Now, the Martins had an older son named Donald. At the time that the family went missing, Donald was 28 years old. He was a U.S. Navy veteran, and he was a graduate student at Columbia University in New York City. So that's where he was at the time of the disappearance. But I don't know if this is just a crazy coincidence or what, but it was discovered that the gun that had been found had been among several sporting good items that Donald Martin had been accused of stealing while working at Meyer and Frank 2 years prior.
Oh.
So the gun that was found was suspected of being a gun that the Martin family's oldest son had stolen while he worked at this department store, based on the serial number. Now, it could be that he stole it and sold it to somebody. It could be that he wasn't even involved with the stealing of this gun, but it was suspected that he stole it because he had worked there. So there's all kinds of reasons why this could have been the case, but it's just kind of a weird coincidence.
Very weird.
So, but like I said, he was in New York City at the time of their disappearance. So there's no way he could have been involved.
Okay.
Directly, at least. There were several alleged reports of sightings of the family. A waitress at the Paradise Snack Bar restaurant in Hood River, where the Martin family had been seen eating dinner on December 7th, claims that she saw a man named Roy Light and another unnamed man, both of whom were ex-cons, leaving the restaurant at the same time as the Martin family. And the men were also wanted in connection to that abandoned 1951 Chevy. They were arrested in connection with stealing that Chevy on December 8th, which is also another weird coincidence.
Yeah.
So other tips also came pouring in. There were over 200 letters and more than 200 phone calls related to the family's disappearance. Among them was a report from an orchard owner in East Portland who claimed to have witnessed a man and a woman on December 7th gathering greenery where a Native American burial site was located. This man said that the following week, a flock of buzzards was seen flying in the direction of where that man and woman were last seen. Now, I don't know if buzzards are a sign of dead bodies or decaying flesh, or I'm not sure.
I think
But
so.
yeah, I'm not sure. But the canyon near the site where they were last seen was searched, but nothing was. On December 28th, a woman's glove was discovered near the site of the abandoned Chevy, which family stated was quote unquote similar to a glove that Barbara would wear. It couldn't be positively identified as belonging to her, though. But it just was like a style that she was known to wear.
Okay.
On December 31st, a man called police reporting that he had seen a vehicle matching the Martins' Ford speeding on the Baldock Freeway. Police were alerted along that freeway, but the car couldn't be located. A letter was received through a witness who claimed to have seen a family resembling the Martins in Burlington, Iowa on Christmas Eve. One of the last reported sightings of the Ford came on January 7th, 1959, from a truck driver who stated he had seen a car matching the Martins' description parked in Billings, Montana with Oregon license plates. By February 1959, investigators had undertaken searches of various locations, including the greater Portland metropolitan region, as well as searches on Mount Hood. During this time, a volunteer searcher found tire tracks leading off a cliff near the Dalles, Dalles, which reportedly matched the tires of the Martins' Ford. And paint chips were also recovered at this location and sent to the FBI for analysis, where it was later determined that the paint was the same paint used to make the model of the Ford that the Martins drove. Based on the possibility that the Martins' vehicle might have plunged into the river, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers lowered the level of the river by 5 feet. So they drained the river by 5 feet. I don't know how they were able to do that with running water. So they were able to lower the level of the river by 5 feet in the lake behind Bonneville Dam. Oh, that's why, because it was behind the dam, which was searched with sonar technology, but it yielded no results. And then on May 1st, 1959, 3 months after the tire tracks were reported, river drilling rig near the Dalles reportedly hooked something of substantial weight to its anchor. It became dislodged before it could be pulled to the surface, though. And then in the early morning hours of May 2nd, 1959, so the next day, a fisherman and his wife reported seeing what appeared to be 2 bodies floating downstream near Cascade Locks. They later encountered the bodies near Bonneville Dam. And then on the afternoon of May 3rd, the body of Susan was discovered on the north bank of the Columbia River near Camas, Washington, roughly 70 miles west of the Dalles. So this was Susan, who was the youngest child. She was the 11-year-old. Her identity was positively confirmed with dental records. The next morning, the body of Virginia, the 13-year-old, so the middle daughter, was discovered near Bonneville Dam, roughly 46 miles west of the Dalles, also confirmed via dental records. So the 2 youngest daughters were found.
Okay.
One of the technicians, and this is also very strange. So one of the technicians who had taken fingerprint of the bodies prior to their autopsies indicated to the medical examiner that they saw bullet holes in the heads of each of the girls' bodies. However, no such injuries were found to be the cause of death in the medical examiner's report. Instead, the cause of death was declared as drowning. However, traces of metal, including aluminum, were recovered from Susan's clothing. The spot on the riverbank where the drill rig encountered a submerged object and where the car is suspected to have gone into the river was directly opposite an aluminum smelting plant. Rupert Gilmouth, the sheriff of Hood River County at the time, suspected that the drilling rig had overturned the Martins' car at the bottom of the river and dislodged one of the doors, allowing the bodies of Susan and Virginia to escape and surface downstream.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So further searches of the water were undertaken by both sonar and helicopter, but they weren't successful. The search for Kenneth, Barbara, and their oldest daughter, Barbie, was suspended after a search diver nearly drowned. So they were like, we don't need more people to be dying here. So police theorized that the Martins may have died as a result of Kenneth's crashing their vehicle into the Columbia River. Another theory held that the family had been abducted and forced off a cliffside into the river. In 1961, a resident of Camas, C-A-M-A-S, Camas or Camas, I'm not sure how it's pronounced.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Wrote a letter to the Oregon Journal stating that they were parked with a companion in Cascade Locks on December 7th, 1958, and had witnessed a vehicle proceeding under the railroad tracks leading toward the locks. Moments later, they heard screaming, but upon investigating, found nothing. In December 1966, Donald, the only surviving member of the family, the one who had been living in New York City, inherited the family's estate, which had been in a mandated probate for 7 years. He later moved to Hawaii and became a teacher. And he died in 2004 at the age of 73, leaving 3 children behind. He is buried together with his wife at the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific. Multnomah County Police consistently suspected foul play in the Martins' disappearance based on the evidence of the tire tracks that indicated their vehicle was deliberately pushed off the cliff. Also troubling were the reported sightings of the family at dusk on the north bank of the river in Washington, while the tire tracks placed them on the south side of the river in Oregon. This would suggest that their car would have fallen over the cliff after nightfall. Now, remember the arrest of those 2 ex-convicts the day after the family disappeared they had been arrested for that car theft. Though police weren't able to determine whether the incidents were related, Walter Graven, a Portland detective, ardently felt that the family had met with foul play and that their murders would be solved once their car was discovered. The cremated remains of Susan and Virginia remained at the Riverview Abbey Mausoleum in Portland and remained unclaimed for over a decade after their deaths, which is weird considering there was one surviving member of the family. Why didn't the older brother
want their ashes?
Yeah, why didn't he claim their remains? That to me is a little weird. But which is even weirder, on December 30th, 1969, a little over 10 years after the family went missing, the urns containing the remains of the 2 youngest Martin daughters were retrieved by an unknown individual. The girls' paternal grandmother, Margaret Martin, had died the day before on December 29th, 1969, and the girls' cremated remains were claimed while funeral arrangements were being made for her. So whoever was in charge of making the arrangements for the grandmother's death must have taken their remains, but it's not stated. It's unknown who that person was. So it could have been the older brother. I don't know.
or someone else in the family.
Yeah. So for most of the latter part of the 20th century, no search efforts to recover the remaining three missing family members were made. In July 1999, Oregonian journalist Margie Boulay, who had become interested in the case, organized a dive search of the Columbia River near Cascade Locks, searching for the Martin's car. The search utilized new sonar, GPS, and LiDAR underwater acoustic technology, but ultimately proved unsuccessful. Then, in late 2024, 66 years after the Martins' disappearance, what is believed to be the Martin family car was discovered in the Columbia River near Cascade Locks by diver Archer Mayo, who had been independently investigating the disappearance. The vehicle was located approximately 50 feet below the water's surface, which explains why it was hard to find.
Yeah.
So it was buried beneath a ton of rock, silt, and other debris. So so it wasn't just sitting at the bottom of the waters. It wasn't sitting at the bottom of the water. It was actually buried underneath a bunch of stuff.
A bunch of stuff. Yeah.
And it was unearthed using a vacuum dredge. I'm not sure what those are, but it must have been very powerful.
Yeah.
Several other vehicles were also found in this process.
Wow.
And then recovery efforts began on March 6th, 2025, which was my birthday. Portions of the vehicle, including the chassis or chassis, I don't know, cars, the rear axle and engine, were extracted and sent to the Oregon State Crime Lab for examination. A diver who helped find the Martin's car announced on August 22nd, 2025, that he had found the remains of several people who had been pulled from the car. A camera case with Kenneth Martin's name and address was also discovered, providing important confirmation of the car's owner. And then very recently, last week on April 16th, 2026, the Oregon State Medical Examiner's Office stated that they had identified the remains of Kenneth Martin, Barbara Martin, and Barbie Martin following DNA analysis of the remains located in the Columbia River within the wreckage of the Martin family car. So not only were they able to identify that the car belonged to the Martins, but they were able to determine that the remains found in the car did belong to the other three family members who had gone missing.
Wow.
Yeah. So the Hood River County Sheriff's Office has concluded its investigation, having found no evidence of a crime. And that's it. That's all we know in terms of the Martin family disappearance. And like I said, for all intents and purposes, some people are considering this a solved cold case because they were able to find all of the missing family members' remains and they found the car and, bada bing, bada boom, it's solved. But we still don't know how they ended up in the river. We don't know why they ended up in the river. We don't know if there's a connection with that gun that was found, the car, the ex-cons. There are all these sightings. What happened? How did they end up from point A to point Z? You know what I mean? It's so weird.
It's so weird. And I know that the case is now closed and they have decided that it's over because, they've done everything they can do.
Yeah.
I've read and I've seen multiple interviews with people involved in the case, and they made it clear that if there was foul play, there's no way they're really going to know at this point. There's so little, it's only had full bodies, and I don't even believe they had the full car. They only had parts of it because
they only had part. Yeah, it was just it was the chassis. What was it? The chassis, the engine, the rear axle. And remember decades prior, they had found paint chips and tire marks that matched the make and model of the car that they drove.
Yeah.
That were found near the cliff. But even though even though some of this might be lost to time in terms of, figuring out the why of and the what happened, that's where things astrology can come in, where we can kind of fill those gaps and see what could have happened. So I'm gonna hand it over to you and see
Yeah,
what you've been able to come up with.
absolutely. This is a really interesting case. I think the astrology is really interesting. And yeah, let's look at it. I want to give a shout out to Vivi Henriette, my friend and fellow astrologer. She's actually the one that alerted me to this. I wasn't even aware of this. And I'm
Oh,
going to be, well, by the time this comes out, I would have already done, I'm going to be doing a Substack live with Vivi at the beginning of May.
hmm,
But this will come out after that, or probably the
cool.
day after. But I'm going to go on
Oh,
there,
nice.
promote, and just, talk about forensic astrology and use this case, give the greatest hits. But you'll get all of the info here. So let's get started. So, the missing Martin family mystery. The date and time I went with, December 7th, 1958. I went with 4 p.m. as that's the last confirmed sighting. I know there was the waitress
Hmm.
that said she saw them, but the time that is regularly stated, because they have a receipt for the gas station.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. The gas station receipt says 4 p.m. So that's the one I went with,
Okay.
in Cascade Locks, Oregon. And I also want to say, I live in Washington State. I live about an hour from the border of Washington and Oregon. And I haven't been to the specific Cascade Locks area, but I've definitely driven over the Columbia River, going into Astoria, where the Goonies were filmed. And every time I'm on that bridge, it's always downpouring rain and windy. And I'm always, oh my God, we're going to get blown off the bridge and we're going to end up in the Columbia River. So it's definitely a fear of mine.
Yeah.
So that was another reason I was drawn to this. But yeah, so the chart gives us Gemini ascendant. So that means that
Hmm.
Mercury represents the victim, so the family. And Mercury is in Sagittarius in the seventh house, conjunct Venus, which is out of bounds.
Mm.
So, we've said in the past, Venus out of bounds can mean arguments and relationships, or just heightened experiences.
Okay.
So there's that. Now, Mercury, Mercury rules communication, vehicles,
Yep.
traveling, maps, and it often indicates more than one person. So, this is a pretty accurate, I think, ruling planet for this family.
Yeah.
And being in Sagittarius too, which is the month of Christmas. It's Christmas is the theme here a bit.
Yeah.
Next, I want to look at the moon, which is the second indicator for the victims, and it's in Scorpio, which is never the best sign for, when it comes to, events. Fellow Scorpio moon, we know as people, it's okay. But when you're looking at event charts, Scorpio moons can be, you want to be careful.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the moon in Scorpio is conjunct Neptune, and it's near Jupiter, all in the sixth house. And it's opposing Mars in the 12th house.
Mm.
So, right off the bat, I'm thinking, okay, we've got the family traveling here. Venus, they're together. Venus is also relationships, togetherness. They're doing an activity that they enjoy together. Then we have this moon that also represents them, conjunct Neptune. Neptune is never the best thing in an event chart either, when it's really highlighted either, because it can be confusion, alcohol, drugs, deception, things not totally making sense,
Mm.
you know? And then we have that Mars, which is opposing all this stuff, and it's ruled by that Venus too, that's conjunct
Yeah.
Mercury, right?
Yeah.
So 12th house can be hidden enemies, things you can't see. right? So we want to think of the gun theory. Maybe they had someone stalking them. Sixth house can also be sometimes being stalked. So the fact that the 12th and sixth house are really highlighted here, maybe they were being followed and then held at gunpoint. But then the other thing about this sign of Scorpio here, and all these planets are what we call intercepted.
Mm-hmm.
An intercepted house means there's 3 signs in the house.
Okay.
Because one of those signs is not on the cusp of either. It's kind of floating, kind of stuck in the middle here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not, it doesn't have any help. It's kind of, it's lacking in power, lacking in assistance, really.
Okay.
I want to look at this Saturn right here. While it's not aspecting anything, it is conjunct the Galactic Center, which, the Galactic Center in our solar system is a black hole. The Galactic Center is at 26 Sagittarius. So when a planet is in the Galactic Center, it's something that we need to be paying attention to. So first off, we have Saturn, which can represent authorities, but it also represents time, death, decay. And when Saturn is prominent in an event chart like this, it can tell us that it may take a long time, but that bones will be discovered eventually because Saturn rules bones.
Okay.
Yeah. Another thing about Saturn being in the Galactic Center, we've had Ellie Burke from Saturn Season Astrology on before, and she's actually done a lot of research on the Galactic Center. So anyone interested in knowing more about what that means in astrology, definitely check out Ellie's work. In fact, if you Google Galactic Center astrology, her articles are the first thing that pop up. So she's really contributed a lot of research in this area.
Cool.
So I want to give a shout out to Ellie because I read through a lot of her stuff to glean, some of what she found working with the Galactic Center. And she was talking about how the Galactic Center conjunct a planet can warp the significations of the planet. A word she used was spaghettify. To spaghettify things. So that just the visual there is kind of striking, right?
Yeah.
And then just thinking about the planet being in a black hole is kind of wild, right? So another way to think about this Galactic Center is it has the energy of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto all combined. In fact, her quote, I believe, was like one big blob. So so it's the kind of shocking lightning of Uranus, the maybe mystical and confusing and otherworldliness of Neptune, and then the kind of destruction and transformation of Pluto. So that's a really intense thing. It's almost like walking into another dimension.
Yeah.
So Saturn here, so accidents, you think about it almost. So either it's, we can think of it making Saturn go buck wild, and being over the top with boundaries and Saturnian things, death, speeding up death, or having almost no power. So lack of boundaries, right? Not having boundaries. So accidents, things blowing up, lack of clarity, the planet of rules, not being able to operate properly. All of that stuff given an exclamation point.
Wow.
Yeah. That is, the Galactic Center is pretty interesting. So if you want to know more about that, I'll provide a link of her work in there. Now let's look at the 7th house, which we have the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, all these planets we've spoken of. We haven't spoken of the Sun. I'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
But the 7th house, being about either the perpetrator or the explanation for what happened, right? So whether it was an accident or done on, someone did this to them, the 7th house is going to give us that information. And the 7th house is Sagittarius, so it's ruled by Jupiter, meaning Jupiter is either the perpetrator or ruling over the incident. And Jupiter is there with that moon and Neptune intercepted. So Jupiter doesn't have a lot of help here either.
Hmm.
which immediately makes me feel like maybe not a perpetrator, that it was an accident.
Okay.
But then again, when you think about the Galactic Center being involved, like maybe we need to be thinking outside the box. Jupiter in the sixth house. What are some things that, if the sixth house is speaking to the event, uh, health issues? Was there a health incident? Was alcohol involved?
Mm.
Mm, right? I mean, it was the 50s. Didn't people just drink all day? I don't know. Not really, but drinking and driving was maybe not as much of a thing. It was just normal, right?
Sure.
I guess. I don't know. But then the other thing about it is, I was thinking about, because it's, they're out in nature. I mean, we're out in the wild out here, right? They were out in the wild. Sixth house rules small animals.
Hmm.
The 12th house rules big animals. Did an animal have something to do with this? Did a bear run in front of the car? I've been driving not on the 101, but more on back roads, even off season, and a black bear ran out right in front of the car
Oh,
across
wow.
the street. And we were getting ready.
Oh,
Yeah, we were getting ready to park and go for a hike. And I want to say it was September. So, I don't think, well, I don't know enough about hibernation, but it was past, maybe it was October actually, past the time when the bears should have been running around, basically.
yeah.
But yeah, so that was something I thought about too. I mean, Mars can be guns, Mars can be accidents, violence in this Venus ruled out of bounds situation. Why not wild animals?
Yeah. Why
You
not?
know? Yeah, why
Nothing's
not?
off the table.
Nothing is off the table. So then the next thing I want to say before we start looking at asteroids and fixed stars, the sun is about the heart of the matter, ruled by that Jupiter. You know, it's a Christmas story, right? Just a demented Christmas story.
Yeah.
And it just keeps speaking, it's a seventh house story, but it's very much a sixth, 12th house story too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's almost the moon is caught, but the moon is caught between Neptune and Jupiter here. It makes me feel, driving through nature and the magic and the wonder, and then all of a sudden something kind of comes out of nowhere.
Interesting.
Yeah. One more thing is that while these planets aren't making, Venus and Mercury are conjunct, the rest of the planets in here, this is a stellium technically, but by declination, they are in a tight parallel conjunction. So, yeah, they're all connected to that galactic center.
Interesting.
Yeah, they
Okay.
drove into a black hole almost.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do wonder if whether it was an animal or I don't know, or an animal, or maybe it did have to do with that stolen car and those ex-cons, but maybe not in the way that people think. Maybe they almost got into an accident with them driving along the road or something and veered to get out of the way and went off the cliff or something. And then the ex-cons were like, oh shit, we should probably ditch this car. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, could be.
I just think that there's just so many weird little coincidences with the
Yeah.
gun, that whole gun thing. But did you take a look at the fixed stars or the meteors or anything like that?
Oh,
Asteroids?
yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
I am ready for the asteroids and fixed stars portion of the show.
Love that. This is my favorite part.
Me too. All right. So, starting with the fixed stars, conjunct the North Node
Mm-hmm.
in Libra
Mm-hmm.
which is, by the way, sextiling all this stuff here in the seventh house. So it's definitely connected, and it's ruled by that Venus.
Okay.
So the conjunct the North Node in Libra is a fixed star called Foreman. This can indicate ear or eye issues
Oh,
indecisiveness, and risk of shipwreck.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. And then directly across from it, conjunct the south node in Aries, is a fixed star called Baton Kados. And this star can indicate forced change of residence, migration, and shipwrecks.
Hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of shipwrecks.
A lot of shipwrecks, right?
I mean, I guess that could get translated to into a car driving off of a off of a cliff into a body of water.
Yeah. I mean, when these significations, were around before cars, then yeah, I think it would translate.
Yeah.
So next we have conjunct the moon in Scorpio, which is also conjunct Neptune, is an asteroid. Now we're onto the asteroids, and we've seen this
Okay.
one a lot. Siwa.
Nine.
Yeah. This
Jojo
one in
Siwa.
Jojo Siwa. She's always showing up on this show. My God. This can indicate destruction, aggressive actions, and overwhelming fatherly energy.
Mm,
Okay.
interesting. Well, I mean, if the father was driving,
Right.
that
Was
would make
maybe were
sense.
they arguing about something and was he
Did he get something stuck in his eye? Did he not see something, maybe? Or
right?
maybe he didn't see something in the road until the last minute and veered off the, yeah,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. And then after that, we have an asteroid conjunct Jupiter right here.
Hmm.
Remember,
Hmm.
Jupiter is super important. It rules all the stuff in the seventh and the possible perpetrator and or reason why this all happened.
Yeah.
And yeah, conjunct Jupiter is an asteroid called Mallory. And Mallory indicates adventure and the consequences of reckless behavior.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Reminds me of when I was a kid, sometimes my dad would do this thing where he would make the car dance. And it was just his funny dad thing that he did where a fun song would come on the radio. Remember MC Hammer Can't Touch This was on the
Yeah.
radio at the time. This is how long ago it was. And he used to just hit the brake a little bit to make us all kind of jolt a little bit. And I don't know, for some reason it's reminding me of that.
Yes.
Maybe he was doing some funny business to try to get his daughters to laugh, or I don't know, just being a dorky dad, doing dorky dad things in the car.
Yeah. Or
And
also, I
maybe
think,
I was just gonna say, maybe he just had a oh shit moment. And I don't
yeah,
know.
totally. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, it also made me think, yeah, it made me think about similar situation riding in a relative's car when I had to be 7 or 8.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting on their lap in the front seat and they're having me steer and I'm terrified.
Oh my
Right.
God.
That was a common thing though. I mean, it had to be
Yeah.
even that, here, when do I have you steer for a little while so I can drink this beer? you know?
I also wonder why, and it makes me, and this might feed into your theory a little bit. What if, okay, so you know how the two youngest daughters were found first, and then it wasn't until, decades later that the rest of the family was found. I don't know what the car looks like, what that make and model of car looks like on the inside, but what if it had, one of those kind of straight across front seats they used to have?
Yeah.
And what if the mother and father and oldest daughter were sitting in the front and then the two younger daughters were sitting in the back? What if the daughter was in the midst, middle at the front, and the dad was, can you hold, why don't you steer for a second? I've got something in my eye or
Yeah. That the
something.
3 of them were in the front and then the 2 oldest were in the back.
That would explain why, when that hook connected to something that we believe may have been the car and may have dislodged one of the back doors, that could be why only the two younger daughters came out and the older daughter, maybe she wasn't sitting in the backseat. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
spitballing here, but I don't know. That could be it too. I mean,
Yeah.
all we really have is speculation here. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
that's all we really ever have.
And asteroids.
And asteroids. Yeah. We got those asteroids. We got Jojo Siwa
Yeah.
coming in with the dad energy.
Well, here's the next. I have a handful more.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought we were done.
No, it's okay. Almost. So conjunct the North Node again. Now we're talking that before there was also if that fixed star, remember Foreman, can be about shipwrecks. There's also an asteroid conjunct the North Node. Another one we've seen a lot, beer.
Yeah.
So maybe alcohol was involved.
Maybe. It'd be nice to get an itemized receipt from the restaurant they stopped at to see if the dad had been drinking while they were there. I'm sure he was. I'm sure he had a beer or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel back then, dads either drank beer or full pint glass of milk.
Right. Milk, Scott.
Those seem like two dad speeds when it comes to dinner beverages back then. I don't know.
Totally.
My dad still drinks a pint glass of milk with dinner. Gross.
All right. So
okay.
There's two
There's
more.
beer. Okay.
Two more. So we've got two asteroids conjunct Mars in the 12th. The first one is called Fast. This asteroid signifies quick or urgent actions, making it particularly relevant in cases involving rapid events or sudden accidents.
Okay.
Car crashes, sudden attacks, or any situation where time was of the essence. This asteroid might indicate that the event occurred quickly or that the circumstances surrounding the crime or accident developed at a rapid pace. So it happened like that.
Yeah.
And then the last one that to me kind of nudged me in the direction of where I think what happened is accurate.
Yeah.
Is an asteroid called Phaeton or Photon. Phaeton. I think it's Phaeton.
Okay.
And Phaeton was a figure from Greek mythology known for his disastrous attempt to drive the sun god's chariot. So this asteroid shows up where overconfidence, heedlessness of danger, or failing to heed wise counsel leads to spectacular downfall. Yeah.
Could be a literal downfall, you know?
Literally. Right.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
what do you think happened?
I think it was an accident.
Yeah. That's where I'm leaning toward too.
Yeah, I think it was an accident. I do think maybe booze was involved, maybe medication. I mean, I don't even know what kind of pills people were taking in the 50s, right? I mean, was Valium a thing yet in the 50s or was that 60s?
I have no idea.
Right. I mean, yeah.
They even have medication of it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah. But yeah, I do think that there was some kind of, whether it was a medical situation that made him not up to par, assuming he was the one driving. I mean,
yeah.
Right. Again, that Scorpio moon poison, is very much associated with Scorpio. So alcohol, drugs. Yeah. I do think that either a medical situation or medication, alcohol played a part in this accident, this very tragic accident.
Yeah. I think that this is an example of sometimes the simplest explanation is the correct explanation.
Yeah.
Like I said, I know that there's a ton of, there's a ton of stuff. I know that there's a ton of weird coincidences and things that I brought up, but I don't really know that any of that holds any water. No pun intended. I do think that this was probably just an accident. And it does sound, whether it was related to alcohol or medication or something in the road or a potential, them trying to not hit another vehicle or an animal or something, or
Yeah.
him doing a dorky dad thing with, making the car dance.
Overconfident. Right. Making the car dance.
Yeah.
All of that stuff.
Who knows? Who knows? It could have been anything, but I think that in this case, it's pretty obvious that if they ended up where they ended up by accident. I don't think. Yeah, the only thing that I'm weirded out about is the medical examiner's report where that one person had noted that it was the two younger daughters when they were kind of launched that they had suffered gunshot wounds to their heads.
I know.
But that wasn't stated on the medical examiner's report. So I don't know, maybe that person was just being funny or
Well,
being conspiratorial.
I had read that I had actually read something a little different that only
Oh,
one
really?
of them looked they might have had a gunshot, and it was just, but it was never, it was upon looking initially
Okay.
and then later determined that it wasn't. That was the
Oh,
impression
okay.
I got from all the things I read. So,
Gotcha.
yeah. But the other thing about living in the Northwest, especially in December, you can be driving, down one mountainside and it's clear. Next thing you know, the temperature changes and it's snowing or raining and it's like the fog rolls in, you can't see anything. So, I mean, especially out there in that time of, if they were out there at night,
Yeah.
yeah, it can get really hard to see sometimes when that fog rolls in. So, I couldn't find anything about what the weather was like. That's what I kept trying to find too, because I wanted to know if that played a factor. But
So I I didn't put this in my explanation, but what they were wearing when they were last seen was noted. And he was wearing a bomber jacket and she was wearing like a flannel or checkered flannel type jacket. So it sounds like it was at least colder or cooler weather, but it sounds it was pretty mild.
yeah, it would have been in the 40s or 50s
Yeah.
that time of year.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
we solved it.
we solved it. Case closed,
Yeah.
y'all.
No, just kidding. Who knows what happened? But, it is always nice to look at the astrology and see if it kind of matches what we think happened. And I think here it kind of does. Sometimes there isn't some big conspiracy or untold story. Sometimes it really is just
Yeah.
all signs lead to, or all astrology leads to, it was just an unfortunate act. So,
Yeah, I mean, and I looked at, I always do, I looked at lots and lots of different asteroids and all of the ones that would indicate foul play or being stalked and all the things, I looked at all of those and none of them were anywhere near these planets. So,
yeah.
there it is.
There it is, folks.
All right. Well, thanks, y'all. Until next time.
See you next time.